you can say the DC out loud before the player rolls. And more often than not, I think you should. Hell, sometimes I even let my players know the DC before they make the decision to go through with the action. 'Cause I'm crazy. I'm crazy! Of course, this is all about my personal experience. No piece of advice will work for each and every table. D&D is eternally subjective. But to keep myself from constantly repeating that point, I'm saying it now, and I'm not gonna say it again. Right? Tell 'em. I'm not the type to try and hide game mechanics behind narrative language. I love using narrative language. I just use it alongside D&D jargon. The narration I provide is to make the game more fun and interesting, not to shroud the fact that we're playing a game. I think having a clear form of communication so that everyone at the table is on the same page is more important than avoiding game terms to help push immersion that extra 5, maybe 10%. Actually, I don't think it helps push immersion at all, but put a pin in that. We'll get into it later. I strive through and through to be as transparent with my players as possible, for a myriad of reasons, but one of the biggest is that communication is imperfect. No matter how good you are at it, or how well your style of communication clicks with the rest of the table, it'll have flaws. That's just a part of life. In D&D discussions, especially online, people can take a get-good mentality pretty quickly. If there was a communication issue, people will say the DM fucked up the description and should have done better. And everything would have been fine if they just did better. Or the reverse, of course, and blame a player for doing something stupid. Not because they misinterpreted a situation, or there was a communication flaw about the world's logic or the game tone, but simply because they're dumb. They're dumb and bad at the game, and the only fix is to get good and be better. But ironically, that misunderstands a common issue. That communication is, and forever will be, imperfect. Inherently. It's a two-way street that all parties have to put effort into, both in what we choose to say and how we interpret what's said to us. And any issue on either side of this street can cause a car to swerve off and create a traffic jam. And God forbid several cars start to swerve. My point is, neither you nor anybody can always make things clear. Especially when you're talking about fantasy concepts from nothing but your imagination and expecting somebody else to picture the exact same thing in their head, multiplied by however many players are in the party. When you talk as much as one does during a game of D&D, there's going to be a lot of miscommunication, and it's not necessarily somebody's fault. Back in my earlier days of DMing, when I did try to avoid using game terms, to make the world feel more real, I guess, I found there were far more communication errors that occurred. Because trying to explain exactly how difficult a check will be using only in-universe language is damn hard, and for countless reasons. In the real world, we can get a feel for a situation and how hard it'd be to accomplish a task. We have all of our senses to rely on, giving us this innate ability to judge what we're capable of. Of course, this isn't perfect, we aren't amazing at this, but still, our judgment in real life is far better than our judgment using only our minds to picture things somebody just told us. If I'm playing a barbarian and ask if I can break down a door, my character would have some idea as to how hard it'll be. They're in front of the door, they can use all of their senses, and they have life experience in smashing stuff. They have a feel for this kind of thing. But I, sitting here at a table with my friends, with these twig arms, does not. Speaking in game terms circumvents this by using a direct line of communication that we all understand. You don't have to try and explain how sturdy the door looks with pinpoint accuracy if you level with the player and say, if you want to break down the door, it'll be a DC 18 athletics check. This is not supposed to replace narrative descriptions. To be clear, this isn't meant to replace narration. People seem to get that confused a lot. You can still have all the flowery talk. You can make the game feel alive and fun and exciting. Just do both. Give your spiel about what the door looks like, get into its make and its heft, or whatever else have you, but end by telling the player in clear, understandable language what kind of challenge they're up against. Take your pen out, we're getting into it. I believe saying the DC aloud can increase immersion. Now, this won't be the case for everyone, but I shall hypothesize from my kitchen using limited personal experience and a strong bias for what I like and say it's better for most tables. Yeah, I'm going there. I don't agree with the line of thinking that our characters wouldn't know this information. Sure, they wouldn't know these things in quantifiable numbers and game terms, but the DC can act as a shortcut for us as players to tell each other what our characters know. When you ground an abstract, imaginary situation in something you can quantify, like the number for a DC, it becomes very easy to understand. A number is more objective. It doesn't require the same work to interpret like a narrative description does. You can hear a number and immediately get a feel for how hard it'll be to roll that high, which translates to how hard your character feels it'll be to bust down that door. By taking a quick detour to hop out of narration and use game terminology, I as a player can just as quickly hop back into a narrative headspace and use that information to strengthen my in-game understanding. Sure, we did have to go on that detour, but I think it's worth it. No longer do we have to go back and forth with players asking question after question, trying to nail down each detail of what this situation looks like. They don't have to poke and pry anymore just to make an informed decision. I find those dances, where the players are trying to pinpoint the DC without asking it, and the DM is trying to state the DC without stating it, boring, slow, and the antithesis of immersion. I know what we're all talking about, and we dropped out of character while talking about it. I'm already taken out of the moment. The momentum's gone, as everything had to stop so we could do this dance. Why not just say it plainly? There's no need for a 5-minute conversation to proceed one check. Hand over the number, and your players are informed. It's done like that. You know what else is done like that? My depression whenever I see a new member join the Patreon. If you want to see me make better quality content more frequently, consider joining it. You could be awesome and epic and no one wants to hear the use of epic. Oh, thank you, Nolan Widmer. Thank you, Jaso Queso. Thank you, Cody Jones. Thank you, Duncan Cunny. That was a real fail, am I right? Making me go, ugh, like the Rage comic. God, I am almost 30, and I know that's not old, but I fucking feel old.